multinational naval exercise in South Africa. Warships from China, Iran, and Russia have sailed into South African waters, arriving at the main naval base in Simonstown near Cape Town. Their presence marks the start of a week-long military exercise led by China, involving members of the expanded BRICS Plus alliance, a geopolitical bloc formed to challenge Western political and economic dominance. Originally BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, the group became BRICS with South Africa's addition in 2010. It has since expanded to BRICS Plus, including Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and others. South Africa's Defense Department states the drills, dubbed Will for Peace, focus on maritime safety, joint operations, and protecting shipping routes, insisting the goal is to ensure the safety of maritime economic activity. Geopolitical context and controversy. The exercise is highly controversial, threatening to further fracture South Africa's already strained relations with the United States under President Donald Trump. Historical precedent, these are not the first such drills. Initial MOSI exercises with China and Russia occurred in 2019. MOSI II in 2023, during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, sparked significant international backlash. The current exercise, initially planned as MOSI III, was postponed and rebranded. Analysts' skepticism. Defense analysts question why an economic alliance is conducting joint military drills, especially given that BRICS Plus includes members with opposing political interests and active border disputes. They suggest the exercises risk alienating South Africa from the U.S., one of its largest trading partners. U.S.-South Africa tensions. Relations are at historic lows. Since returning to power, President Trump has accused South Africa of failing to protect its white minority, offering Afrikaner refugee status and repeating debunked claims of white genocide, imposed higher tariffs and cut aid, reacted angrily to South Africa's role in bringing a genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, boycotted South Africa's G20 summit, calling it a total disgrace. Economic fallout. Economists warn U.S. tariffs could cost South Africa up to 100,000 jobs in sectors like agriculture and automotive. Analysts note that U.S. companies generate more local jobs than Chinese investments, despite the ruling ANC viewing China as an ideological ally and Russia as a respected anti-apartheid supporter. Street protests in South Africa. The tensions spilled onto the streets with dual protests. Ukrainian protesters gathered near Cape Town's harbor as a Russian warship docked, demanding South Africa end cooperation with Moscow. It is emotionally hard for us to see that Russian Navy that is killing Ukrainian people doing its Navy training in South African waters, a protester said. South African activists protested outside the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria, condemning the recent U.S.-led military operation in Venezuela that resulted in the capture of President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores. Demonstrators labeled the operation imperialist, criminal, and illegal, drawing parallels with U.S. wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya. They rejected U.S. drug trafficking charges as politically motivated. Their demands included the immediate release of President Maduro and the withdrawal of all U.S. forces from Venezuela. A speaker framed the protest as a warning. Yesterday was Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq. Today is Venezuela. Tomorrow, it could very well be South Africa. They argued that South Africa, alongside the Global South, is beginning to distance itself from the U.S. empire through alliances like BRICS. South Africa's dilemma. Analysts warn South Africa now risks being caught in an escalating global power struggle. As rival blocs, Washington and BRICS Plus, flex their military and economic muscle, South Africa faces a high-stakes balancing act. The report concludes that for this African nation, one of the West's oldest allies on the continent, the cost of choosing sides may be more than the country can afford.
It is emotional and hard for us to see that Russian Navy that killing Ukrainian people doing its Navy training in South African waters. So we ask South Africa stop cooperation with Russian Navy training.
We're here today with the various South African civil society organizations, political organizations, as well as trade unions to send a very clear message to the United States. Its gangster-like behavior on the international stage is unacceptable, and the peoples of the world are insisting that there is a red line, and that red line has been. One of the reasons that we are protesting here today is quite simply because yesterday it was Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq. Today is Venezuela. Tomorrow, it could very well be South Africa. The United States has reached that level of being a gangster and a bully. There were trumped-up charges against Nicolas Maduro of being a drug kingpin in his country. There are lies being spread about our own South African government overseeing a white genocide. These are the lies that the United States uses to dominate, to impose, and to interfere with other countries. People of South Africa are also a strong people. We do have alternative relations. We do have BRICS, for example. We do have other countries that we are beginning to trade directly with. We together with other countries of the Global South, are beginning to distance ourselves from the U.S. empire.
We're here at the United States of America Embassy in South Africa. It's to protest the recent January 3rd events that took place in Venezuela. The illegal and criminal kidnapping of the Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro and his wife on trumped-up charges. It's a violation of international law. It's criminal. It's an imperialist action. There's no basis in international law or diplomacy to invade another sovereign state. So it's an act of crime right here, South Africans, to protest at the USA Embassy to show them that we disapprove. And we have few demands. One of the demands that we have is that there must be an immediate release of President Maduro to be returned to his home country where he's the president, and for the withdrawal of all forces and proxies of the United States in Venezuela. When one man sitting and thinking that he can control the world, and just because he's desperate, the influence of the U.S. is continuing to collapse, and because of the desperation, he starts to behave just